Rain whispered against the tall windows of the Grand Aurelia Hotel, a sound so soft it almost hid the world outside. Inside, light shimmered across marble floors, reflecting the quiet luxury of a place where people spoke in lowered tones and waited for nothing. Amelia stood just beyond the entrance, the storm still clinging to her coat. She wasn't supposed to be there. Not really. Her shoes were wet, her laptop bag worn, her spirit steady but tired. The hostess had already told her the lounge was full, and that without a reservation, she'd have to wait. Still, she waited, because something in her refused to turn away. Every table was filled, by laughter, by quiet business talks, by people who belonged, except one. A single man sat at a corner table near the tall window, a silver watch on his wrist, a half-finished espresso. His presence was composed like the silence before thunder. His suit looked like it had been cut from midnight itself. Amelia hesitated, then moved closer, her voice low but clear. "Can I sit here?" He didn't answer right away. His gaze lifted slowly, eyes dark and unreadable, as if studying something deeper than her words. Then he nodded toward the empty chair. "Only if you eat too." Her breath caught slightly. There was no mockery in his tone, just command, calm, final. She smiled, not out of amusement, but habit. The kind of smile a woman wears when she's learned to survive rooms that weren't made for her. She sat down, and for a moment, time stilled. Just the faint hum of rain, the rustle of linen, the rhythm of two lives crossing without reason. He went back to his notes. She opened her laptop. Neither spoke. Yet the silence between them began to shape something delicate, sharp, and alive. Behind her calm, Amelia carried a history that few could bear. 13 years ago, she'd buried her husband with both hands trembling and 2 children waiting at home. They had been married young, partners in a dream that didn't survive the cruelty of the world. He was an engineer, proud and brilliant, until the company he worked for, a name carved into glass towers, collapsed under the weight of greed. Overnight, they lost everything. When he couldn't find work again, despair found him instead. Amelia remembered the day she told him it would be fine, that she would carry them both until he could stand again. But 3 months later, he was gone, and her words turned into promises she never got to keep. She was 28. 2 kids, a heart broken but a will that refused to die. From that wreckage, she built something, slowly, quietly. She learned to trade pain for focus, sorrow for fire. 13 years later, the world saw her as a businesswoman, but inside she was still the woman who looked up every night and whispered, "I'm still trying." Back in the hotel lounge, the waiter returned. 2 plates appeared. She hadn't ordered. When she tried to protest, the man across from her finally looked up again. He simply said, "I don't like eating alone." There was no arrogance in it, just truth. The kind of truth that people with too much silence often carry. So she ate, slowly, cautiously, every motion measured. Between them, words began to find space, small ones at first, about rain, about work, about the strange peace that sometimes comes after chaos. His voice was low, deliberate, the kind that carried weight without trying. And though his expression barely shifted, something in his eyes changed every time she spoke. It wasn't fascination, it was recognition. He asked what she did. She told him, consulting, brand development, helping small businesses find their voice. A company she'd built from her apartment after her children fell asleep each night. When she said it, his hand paused briefly over his coffee cup, almost like her words had brushed something buried deep. "You've built something impressive," he said finally. Amelia gave a faint smile. "I built because I had to. Some of us don't have a choice." The line hung between them, quiet, sharp, and true. He looked away then, toward the rain. His reflection ghosted in the window, calm, controlled, but not untouched. Later, as she packed her laptop to leave, he said her name. She hadn't told him yet, but he'd seen it printed on her notebook earlier. Amelia Rivers. His tone softened when he said it. "Amelia," she looked up. "You should come by the next event this weekend. Networking. I think people should see what you built. She wanted to decline. She wasn't one for empty rooms and clinking glasses. But something about his voice left little room for argument. So she nodded once. Maybe I will. He smiled. A rare, brief thing. Then it settled. She left the restaurant unaware that the man she'd just met, the calm, composed billionaire CEO, was the very one whose company name had been stamped across her husband's final layoff letter 13 years ago. The weekend came, and with it, the quiet pulse of uncertainty. Amelia stood before the mirror in her small apartment, smoothing the same black dress she'd worn to every important meeting for the past 5 years. Her daughter Mia peeked in from the doorway, her curls glowing beneath the soft light. "Mom," she said, "you look like a boss." Amelia smiled, trying to hide the emotion behind her eyes. "I am one, remember." In the next room, her son Caleb worked on his project for school, earphones in, a young man growing too fast for her to catch. 13 years had changed many things, except her purpose. Every breath she took still carried their future in it. By the time she arrived at the Grand Aurelia Ballroom, the world around her shimmered with golden glass. Music swelled like confidence. Laughter floated like perfume. Every face looked familiar in the way power always does. Detached, rehearsed, and safe. And then there was him, standing by the window again, calm and composed, wearing a black suit that seemed to silence the room. He was speaking to another executive, but when his eyes found her, the conversation ended. A simple nod, a signal. He made his way toward her, and the crowd parted without realizing why. "You came," he said quietly. Amelia replied, "You invited." He gestured toward the terrace. "Let's get some air." Outside, the night felt different, calmer, heavier. The city below gleamed like 1,000 distant fires. "You built your company from nothing?" he asked. "Yes," she said. "From debt, from loss, from everything that tried to bury me." He studied her for a long moment. "And now?" She turned toward the skyline. "Now I build for those who think they can't start again." The silence that followed was long and deliberate, the kind that carries unspoken truth. His next words came low, a whisper nearly swallowed by the wind. "I owe you an apology." She frowned slightly, confused. "For what?" He looked away, to the city, to the past, to somewhere only guilt lives. "You'll know soon," he said, and in that moment she felt a small shift, something unsteady beneath the calm. She didn't yet understand why his eyes carried the weight of a confession, or why he looked at her not as a stranger, but as a consequence. That night, as she lay awake, memories she thought she'd buried began to breathe again. The name of her late husband's company echoed faintly in her mind. Weston Industries, the empire that had crumbled under a scandal, taking hundreds of jobs with it. She remembered his voice that day, trembling as he read the notice. She remembered holding his hand, promising they'd start over. And she remembered the silence that followed when starting over never came. It couldn't be, she thought. Not him, not the same Weston, but the world had a cruel sense of poetry, always bringing her full circle, whether she was ready or not. Morning came soft and gray, the kind of light that hides more than it reveals. Amelia sat at her kitchen table, coffee cooling beside the bills. Her phone buzzed, an email marked Invitation, Weston Industries Partnership Forum. For a long time she just stared at the screen. That name again, a name she had trained herself not to hear, not to curse, not to remember. And yet, there it was, bold, clean, alive. The company that had taken her husband's hope was thriving again. She almost deleted it, but something in her, the same force that had kept her building long after the world gave up on her, made her open it. The sender was the man from the restaurant. The signature read, Alexander Weston, Chief Executive Officer. The room tilted a little, so it was him. The following week, she walked into the Weston Industries conference hall. Every step echoed like a heartbeat. The walls carried the scent of money and freshly printed ambition. Alexander stood near the stage, greeting investors. When he turned and saw her, the mask of composure shifted for a heartbeat, then returned. He dismissed the others with a nod and motioned her toward a quiet corridor. No words for a moment, only the sound of distant applause. At last he said, "I know what my company did. What I did." Her voice was calm, but her hands shook slightly. "Then you know why I shouldn't be here." "I do," he said, "but I also know rebuilding something broken begins with facing who broke it." His confession was not loud. It was tired, human. He had inherited the empire from his father, a man who chased profit and left ruin behind. 13 years ago, Alexander had been on the board, young, silent, complicit. "I thought silence protected us," he said. "It destroyed families instead." Amelia looked at him, really looked. This was the man she had wanted to hate, but all she saw was someone standing at the same grave of consequence. "I can't change what happened to your husband," he said, "but I can help change what happens next." Sometimes destiny doesn't bring the villain back for revenge. It brings him back for redemption. What Amelia didn't know was that Alexander's company was about to propose a partnership, one that could make her small firm global, or destroy everything she'd built if she said no. The rain had returned, not the kind that ruins days, but the kind that cleans the air before dawn. Amelia stood outside the Weston Tower, her umbrella trembling in her grip. Inside, a decision waited that would either honor her husband's memory or erase his name entirely. She entered the boardroom slowly, her heels echoing across the marble floor. The room was glass and steel, beautiful, sterile, untouchable. Executives lined the table, their eyes flickering toward her like cameras waiting for the right frame. Alexander was already there, calm, composed, the ghost of guilt still lingering in the curve of his mouth. "Thank you for coming," he said. "I'm not sure why I did," she replied. He didn't argue. He simply handed her a document, a partnership proposal that bore her company's name beside his. She scanned the pages, each word cutting sharper than the next. A collaboration that would give her access to global markets, full creative control, majority equity in her field. It was everything she had ever worked for. But the logo at the top, Weston Industries, made her chest tighten. "I can't build under the same name that broke me," she said quietly. Alexander looked down. "Then build over it." Their eyes met. Two people standing on opposite sides of the same wound. "What do you get out of this?" she asked. His answer came without hesitation. "Peace." The meeting began. Her voice was steady as she presented her vision. Programs for women entrepreneurs, rebuilding communities destroyed by corporate greed, reinvesting in fairness and human worth. The room fell silent when she finished. It wasn't just a proposal, it was a manifesto. Alexander leaned forward. "Then let's begin there." The board hesitated. Profit rarely applauds morality, but one by one, reluctant hands rose. Approved. The sound of that word filled the air like release. Later that night, on the rooftop terrace, the city shimmered beneath them. The lights reflected in the rain puddles like tiny broken stars. Amelia stood beside Alexander, the contract sealed, her company reborn. "I didn't do this for forgiveness," he said quietly. "I did it because the world needed to see what rebuilding looks like." "And what does it look like?" she asked. He smiled faintly. "You." She didn't answer. Words weren't strong enough for the feeling that rose in her chest. Grief meeting grace, anger dissolving into something unspoken but healing. He turned to leave, but she stopped him. "You should eat too," she said softly. He froze. A small, stunned laugh escaped him. The same line from the day they met. The memory warmed the cold air between them. They sat together at the small table near the terrace edge, 2 cups of coffee steaming between their hands. Silence again, but this time it was peaceful. Below them, the city kept moving, unaware that somewhere high above, 2 lives that had once collided in pain were now quietly beginning again. Redemption doesn't erase the past. It simply proves we're more than what broke us. If this story touched your heart, don't scroll yet. Take a moment. Drop a love in the comments for everyone rebuilding after loss. Your like, your share, your voice. It tells the world that resilience still matters. This is Nahtales, where broken stories find beautiful endings.